Hey everyone, Cadian Sergeant Steele here. Today I want to talk to you about one of my favorite units in the Astra Militarum, the Thunderbolt Heavy Fighter. So let's talk about the Thunderbolt Heavy Fighter. Probably one of my all-time favorite Forge World models. For those not familiar, for those maybe are new to Warhammer and don't know what I'm talking about, Forge World is the company that makes the resin models, the more expert kits that you now see on the Warhammer website. These are all in resin, they're not regular plastics. So they do take some different techniques in order to assemble and paint and then even transport, I believe, and play with so that you don't damage them. But they are beautiful kits, and this is my first of those kits that I'm reviewing as a unit for my unit reviews. So this one here, like I said, is a Thunderbolt Heavy Fighter. It is an extremely detailed kit with all kinds of cool things going on. Let's just start out with the fact that you can make anything come on and off, your cockpits, your engine cover, mine's magnetized actually, your equipment hatches here on the side, so on and so forth. So there's a lot you can do with this. It comes extra little bits like the empty chair. It comes with your landing gear, right? And I've magnetized the bottom of mine so I can take these flaps off and attach the landing gear. So this kit has a lot of versatility, a lot of hobby potential, and something I highly recommend. But you're not here to talk about the kit. I just want to show it off real quick. Let's talk about the unit and why I think this is one of the coolest units you can get for the Astra Militarum. Okay, always start out with the unit profile. So what are we talking here? What does this thing do in terms of its basic stats? It is movement 20 plus inches, toughness 10, 3-up save, 15 wounds, and it does degrade in its profile once you get down to 1 to 5 wounds. It has 7 leadership and no objective control. Keeping with the theme of 10th edition, aircraft do not have objective control, so they can't hold objectives. Let's cover the movement real quick. What that means is that when this comes in on the table, so this unit doesn't get the option to hover. It comes in at its supersonic fast speed. So as of right now, it has to go in strategic reserves. It comes in turn 2, and so you set it up within 6 inches of a board edge, and then on its turn, you can move it at minimum 20 inches, but up to any distance you want. Now, in regular competitive 40K, that may not mean a whole lot, especially when the maximum length of our boards, not counting the base size and the 6 inches you come in, is 60 inches, right? That gives you approximately 54 inches of room in order to move this model, not counting it hanging over the edge of the table, which are special rules about in the designer's commentary. That makes this be able to essentially move anywhere on the table you want it to be, and that's really wonderful. Now, there are special rules about how you move aircraft in 10th edition 40K, about how you pivot 90 degrees and then move, or you move, then you pivot. And so you're basically locked into your next vector, your next straight line that you're going to go. So do keep that in mind. They take a little bit more tactics to play with your aircraft that's not in hover mode. Let's talk about what this unit actually does and why it's awesome. So with toughness 10, 3-up save, it's not the strongest aircraft. It is resilient. I mean, you're going to be able to make some saves, and you're going to be able to take some damage, but you're not going to stick around too long if your opponent has the right thing to shoot at this. With that 3-up save, that means even your armored sentinels have a better save than this aircraft. But that's not the point of this. The point of this unit is to come in, strike fast, strike hard, and hopefully your other targets are taken out well enough that it will survive. So let's look at its weapons. Let's look at its war gear options. It's very simple. It's very basic, and that makes it very easy to work with here. So you have 2 las cannons. We can see those here at the top. You have its Thunderbolt nose autocannons, and those are twin linked, so that is 4 shots, ballistic skill 4, strength 9, -1, flat 3 damage. Really good. The las cannons are just las cannons, right? Strength 12, -3, d6 +1. We also have, now not modeled here, because they don't sell it anymore, but you also get the Hell Strike rack. So these are an anti-fly 2+. Think about that. Anti-fly 2-up. So they're going to auto-wound everything on a 2-up with 4 ballistic skill. It's 2 shots each. Strength 10, -4 D6. So they're just shy of the strength and damage of a las cannon. But they have anti-fly 2+. That allows you with that weapon, with strength 10, to really put damage on vehicles, monsters, and definitely other aircraft. Where this could also come in handy and something to keep in mind, but we'll go over this more in just a moment, is that anti-fly. A lot of things in Warhammer 40,000 have fly, right? We're talking about some Primarchs have the keyword fly, other flyers, infantry units, so on and so forth. Sometimes even things like Tau vehicles have fly, right? There are units in the game you may not expect to have fly, so this can be very beneficial. That means you're wounding them on a 2-up guaranteed, so your strength 10 no longer matters. That's really something wonderful to keep in mind when running this unit. Now, what makes this special? What makes the Thunderbolt Heavy Fighter special with its unit abilities? That is called Fightercraft. Each time this model makes a ranged attack that targets a unit that can fly, add 1 to the hit roll. Think about that. This thing is hitting on 3s, and there is a lot of stuff in the game now with the fly keyword. Now, of course, your opponent could do something, say like the pop smoke stratagem, right, to give you -1 to hit, but that means you're still hitting on 4s. That means you're back to regular guard ballistic skill. If you're running any guard list, you're typically also going to be running Scout Sentinels. So you're going to be giving yourself reroll 1s to hit. So you're rerolling 1s, hopefully hitting on 3s. That now makes your Hellstrike missiles, your autocannons, and your las cannons very reliable. Something that you can guarantee you're going to get some hits and some damage on. One of the struggles is that the damage is typically, besides the autocannons, it's D6 or D6 +1. It's not as reliable, and that does make it kind of tough sometimes. But that also means you could just one-shot something. You could take it out the first time you hit it. And so you got to keep that in mind that this unit may need some support to help clean up after it shoots, if it doesn't absolutely devastate something, or it has the chance to absolutely just remove something from the game. And that is really, really cool. With its autocannons, it also makes it a good option to kill some elites, some 3-wound units, right? Terminators and so forth. And so this can swoop in, find those units, and take them out. Now, one of the other things you want to keep in mind for how to buff this unit are two other units in particular. You may want to consider your regimental attaches, which I've covered in an earlier video, and then you get your officer of the fleet, which can also give this unit +1 to hit a unit that's observed within 18 inches of your officer of the fleet. That's how you can get around the fly keyword +1 to hit. Or if your opponent has popped smoke, you can give yourself +2. They're now -1, so you're back to hitting on a 3, and with Scout Sentinels, re-rolling 1s. Very, very effective. That makes this unit very good at swooping in and just smashing a target. The other unit that you can bring to buff this unit is Lord Solar Leontis. He can order any unit in the Astra Militarum. So that means he could order the Thunderbolt to take aim. With take aim, that changes your ballistic skill to a 3. So when you get your +1 to hit, you're now hitting on 2s. With Scout Sentinels, you're rerolling 1s. This makes the Thunderbolt, if you're running that combo, extremely reliable. But that takes a lot of work on you as the player, because that means tactically you have to be very sound, right? You have to make sure that Lord Solar is close enough to issue orders to this. You have to make sure that your Scout Sentinels have line of sight. You may have to make sure your regimental attaches are within 18 inches and have line of sight, depending on the list you're writing and the strategies that you want to employ. But you have a lot of options, and you would never take all 3, not that I would recommend. You wouldn't take regimental attaches, Leontis, and Scout Sentinels to just buff this unit. You would take them to do all kinds of things, but not simply to buff the Thunderbolt. I think the Thunderbolt does pretty well on its own with just Scout Sentinels to help buff it hitting its targets. This thing is made to kill other aircraft. That's really what it's best at. But it also, like I said, with those autocannons can take out the ground targets, can take out elites, and put some damage on it. You're going to find with the 4-up ballistic skill unmodified and the D6 damage, it's very swingy. So you may play a game and this unit could do maybe almost nothing. And then the next game, you just wreck your opponents. You absolutely devastate them and make them wonder what happened once this comes in on turn 2. So overall, I think this is a really great unit to bring to your games. I think it could be a lot of fun. It's a cool looking model. It's a great looking kit, and you don't see a whole lot of them. I take this to Adepticon. I take it to the Nova Open. I took it to the Grand Narrative. I love running this model. It's so iconic to the Astra Militarum, and it's so iconic to the Forge World range and the great kits that they've come out with over the years for the Guard. It's a chonker. I mean, it's a flying brick. I mean, look at this thing. It is thick, but it's a lot of fun too. It's not overpowered right now, and I think it serves a couple unique roles in our army. The only thing you have to keep in mind about whether or not you might want to bring it is, one, I bring it for rule cool, and it can be effective, but it's not always guaranteed. The other thing is that right now with the current points, this is roughly a couple hundred points of no objective secured. So that means you're going to have to rely on your other 1,800 points for holding objectives. This is never going to be able to do it. It's going to see 0. You're not going to be able to hold objectives with this aircraft. So that's not happening. You're going to have other units moving around to capture things. This is only going to shoot stuff off the table. It's not going to do anything else. But I think with the amount of things in the game, with the fly keyword, it makes the Thunderbolt Heavy Fighter very viable. It's going to work in a lot of your games. It's going to depend on your local meta. It's going to depend on the meta of the event that you are attending. But there is a lot of targets available that this thing naturally gets buffed to take down. So with that, I think it's a unit that is a good option. It's something you should consider building. If you've never built a Forge World kit before, I do highly recommend this one. It's a lot of fun. If you want to know how I did this was brass rods back here where I pinned those hatches. This is just magnetized. My weapons hatch is just magnetized. And if you can find 3D prints or recasts or even originals of the missiles on the bottom, you can magnetize those as well and put those on this model. But it's just a great kit. There's just so much detail. So the last thing I want to point out is just this little kind of hobby note that I've done here. This is Captain J. Barker. Who that is, in case for any of you that are huge Astra Militarum fans here on social media, that is the account owner of the Cadian 18th Army Group and the Striking Scorpion 87 brother. He's in a lot of battle reports. He does many of my favorite Astra Militarum battle reports. Honestly, there's no one else I enjoy more watching than the 18th Cadian Army Group when they do battle reports. Whether that's Apocalypse, they do some of the best Apocalypse battle reports I've ever seen on YouTube, or it's just a smaller 2,000, 1,500 point narrative game. And so to honor him as my favorite YouTuber for Astra Militarum battle reports, I've put him as the captain of my fighter pilot. So I am one of his subscribers, so you often hear my name shouted out on his channel too as one of his sergeants or veterans in his army. And so I'm really flattered to be able to kind of give back to him a little bit and to have him be the captain of my one Thunderbolt. That's all I have for you today, and I really appreciate you all tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I also hope you enjoy hobbying with cool kits like the Thunderbolt. So definitely check it out and try something new. Get a Forge World kit, put it together, and I think it's a great, lovely hobby project to have. So, and definitely a fun model to run. I'm not going to say this is an auto-include ever, but I think it is definitely a worthwhile kit to try out and have wonderful fun with as we play our Guard. So, as always, have fun wargaming, and remember, Cadia stands.